Hello everyone, and welcome to the Carnegie Slate demo series. My name is Nina Takach. I'm a Slate Enrollment Implementation Strategist with the Slate Optimization team. Today we're going to be covering the power of conditional logic within Slate forms. First, we'll begin by defining conditional logic. Then we'll go over which fields are available to us within the Forms module, followed by how to add form logic within form sections and individual fields and prompts, and finally, how to check for errors in your form logic. So what is conditional logic? Conditional logic is used to conditionally show fields and/or prompts based on previously captured data in Slate. In other words, conditional logic can be understood as if-then statements. If a condition is met, then an action is performed. Let's talk briefly about form fields before we dive deeper into conditional logic. There are three types of form fields that Slate makes available to us: style elements, question options, and widget options. Style elements update the appearance of the form and offer instructions such as headings, header rows, or instruction blocks. Question options allow for the collection of information from the user, including text boxes, checkboxes, option buttons, and more. Widget options include birth date, address blocks, payment widgets, and more. When talking about form fields and form logic, it's important to discuss the difference between mapped fields and unmapped fields. Mapped fields in Slate are fields that you can pull in from a record or elsewhere in Slate. For example, the email field on this form is mapped to the record in Slate, meaning that Slate will store that information and match this form with the student's record upon submission, or create a new record if none exists. Unmapped fields are not connected to an existing Slate field and are not essential to the person record. For example, asking for someone's favorite color may be important for this form in particular, but will likely not need it to be stored on someone's record for future reference. For unmapped fields, be sure to create a computer-friendly export key so that we can use this field for conditional logic later on this form. Now for the fun part, adding conditional logic within your form. There are three primary ways to use conditional logic on forms: by section, by field, and by prompt. First, section breaks. To add conditional logic filters into a section break, first drag multiple fields that are meant to display together in a group. Then, add in one section break and place it above the first field in the group. Double-click into this section break and add any necessary filters needed to define the population meant to see these fields. Save it. Then add an additional section break after the final field in the group to close the section. In this example, only people who selected blue as their favorite color will see this group of questions. In order to add conditional logic filters to a form field, first drag in a field from the Form Builder palette on the right-hand side. Then label your filter. This will be visible to the end user as the question that needs to be answered. Select Filter in the Conditional Logic section, and then add any filters needed to define the population that should see the field. And save. In this example, the only people who should see this field are those who selected purple as their favorite color on the above field. You can also use logic to conditionally show prompt values that the user can select. To add prompt conditions, double-click into a field that contains prompt values. Click Edit Prompt Conditions on the bottom right. Check a single prompt or multiple prompts if they use the same conditional logic. Click Edit Selected Prompts, Add any needed filters to the prompts that define the population that should see this prompt, and save. In this example, only students who selected blue as their favorite color earlier in the form will be able to see the blue party time slots. Keep in mind that you've only added prompt logic to a few prompts here, so the blue party goers can see their time slots as well as everyone else's time slots. If you'd like the blue party goers to only see blue time slots, you'll need to add prompt logic to the rest of the options as well. You can also layer conditional logic to meet more specific, complex criteria. You can do this by adding additional filters in a variety of ways. See the example here. By layering two filters next to each other, Slate will recognize this as an AND statement. This instruction block will show only if both those filters are true. In this example, we're using parentheses to group an OR statement together after a single filter. By adding an OR and grouping with parentheses, this instruction block will only appear if the user selected that their favorite color was blue and either 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. was selected as the preferred party time. If there is an OR statement referencing multi-select prompts, this could also mean that either or both are true. In order to limit OR statements to keep your system as efficient as possible, you can achieve the same results as the previous example by holding down the Control or Command button and selecting multiple prompts. In this example, by selecting a NOT statement and placing it under the first filter, the instructions will now only populate for users who selected their favorite color as blue and did not choose the blue party at 10, 11, or 12. You can achieve this same result in a few different ways, by selecting Not In directly in the filter itself, or by choosing in the affirmative. Instead of telling Slate to show this field if the user selected blue as their favorite color and did not select the party at 10, 11, or 12, you can tell Slate to show the field only if they selected the 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. slot. In general, it's recommended that you choose the affirmative wherever possible, as it's easy to get tripped up with double and triple negatives when adding your logic. Keep in mind that order is very important when adding layered filters. Be mindful of where your ORs, NOTs, and parentheses are placed, as incorrect placement of these operators can lead to logical errors. Before we wrap up, let's go over how to double-check your form logic. Slate allows us to check errors in our form logic using the Show Form Logic /Fields button on the right-sided menu within the form editor. After clicking on it, Slate shows us a full list of logic that we have used in our fields and prompts within this form. By clicking Run Field Tests, Slate will check for potential errors in our logic. Green check marks or red X's will display under each instance of form logic to show when logic is functioning correctly, or if there are any errors that need to be corrected. Some logical errors that could display a red X are filters may be arranged incorrectly within a field, an or not statement is out of order, a conditional logic filter is referencing a field not on the form, or a syntax error exists within a form calculation. And that concludes our session on form logic today. Thank you so much for spending 10 minutes with me as we explored conditional logic. We've only scratched the surface of what we can do with logic in Slate forms, but we'll save the rest for another lesson. We would love for you to come back for more Slate demo series or sign up for a tiny training. If you're interested in working with us on any number of Slate-related projects, feel free to reach out to me directly or complete the request for information form on the Carnegie website. Once again, my name is Nina Takach, Slate Enrollment Implementation Strategist on the Slate Optimization team. Thank you again for joining me, and happy slating!